trick in making my love stick? What's the trick?
Hello, and welcome to the Film Critic and the Common Man podcast. While other film podcasts might be respectable, we have not yet begun to defile ourselves. Every episode, we discuss a film from the perspective of a film critic and the perspective of a common man. We may not agree, but it certainly won't be boring. I'm your co-host, Ben Miller. I'm a film critic, and I write about films for my own site, Ice Cream for Freaks. I am joined by my brother and common man co-host, my personal huckleberry, Jake Miller. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great. You're looking. I don't have the heft. Like, I have a pretty solid mustache, but I don't have the heft to actually have something come off of it. You have the very, like, you could as you saw from our Halloween episode where you dressed up like a pirate. You have the facial hair to go along with this movie.
This just happened.
just woke up that way. It's like you can't try to script this type of magic.
Some people, they watch Tombstone and then their facial hair just
naturally turns that way. We are going to talk about Tombstone. Before we get to that, we want to let you guys know, for the month of May, we are doing our listeners' choice episodes. So if you want us to do a specific movie, essentially any film that you want to talk about, that you want us to talk about, send it into Twitter at Critic Common Pod, or send us an email at criticcommonmanpod@gmail.com. We will take any and all submissions. We're doing 4 listeners' choice episodes. The only one we're gonna let our mom, our most avid listener / watcher, we're gonna let her pick an episode, and then the other 3 are open for considerations. I'll also post that on Twitter and our site, so please keep an eye out for that and get your requests in as we go. But today we are talking about our own choice. Go ahead.
I want to know not only what you want us to do, but why.
Yeah, it's like, well, I want you to do this. I want you to do this movie because
sell yourself.
Exactly.
Sell yourself.
Give us a reason to pick you. Yes, exactly. So
nudes are allowed.
We can be bought. Absolutely. We can be manipulated. Absolutely. Today we are doing our own choice. This is we're doing the film,
but not from mom.
Not for mom. No, exactly. I don't want nudes from my mom.
Sorry.
Today we are talking about Tombstone, directed by George P. Cosmatos, written by Kevin Jari, starring a massive cast, back-to-back huge cast films. Kurt Russell, Val Kilmer, Michael Biehn, Powers Booth, Dana Delaney, Bill Paxton, and Sam Elliott, co-starring Jason Priestley, Stephen Lang, Thomas Hayden Church, Michael Rooker, Harry Carey Jr., John Corbett, Billy Zane, Terry O'Quinn, Billy Bob Thornton, and Charlton Heston, also narrated by Robert Mitchum. Opened on December 25th, 1993, a modest hit, 56.5 million US, 16.8 million international, 73.2 million on a $25 million budget. Solid for the time. Much more has become a cult classic throughout the years. No major awards. We will get into that a little bit as well. But I mean, no Razzies, no Oscars, no Golden Globes, nothing like that. We'll get into the various things like that as we go. Rotten Tomatoes, 72% for critics. That's about what I expected, but audiences way on board, 94% for the audiences, very much behind this movie. Kind of become a classic through the years. At the time, it was not exactly that well received. I think it's a lot of, sometimes whenever those movies that have troubled production histories, nobody's really on board with it being a good movie. And that, I think that might have been the case here, but regardless. So
I can see that.
Quick rundown of the film Tombstone. It's not exactly plot heavy. It's pretty straightforward about exactly what's going on. This is set in 1879. A group of outlaws called the Cowboys, led by Curly Bill, ride into a Mexican town and disrupt a police officer's wedding and pretty much massacre all the cops there.
Mexican police.
Mexican police. That's right. Separately, Wyatt Earp, retired peace officer who has kind of already has this big reputation, reunites with his brothers Virgil and Morgan in Tucson, Arizona, where they're going to head towards Tombstone to settle down. They encounter longtime friend Doc Holliday seeking relief from tuberculosis. They're heading in there, and they also kind of run in there with Josephine Marcus, an actress with the traveling theater troupe, and her and Wyatt kind of have some romantic entanglements. So they tech in there, they set up shop, and they begin to profit from a stake of gambling in a gambling emporium and a saloon, and they kind of run afoul with the cowboys. Tensions kind of keep rising between the cowboys and the Earps, and then eventually the marshal of the city, Marshal Fred Wright, he's telling Curly Bill to stop his firearm, and he accidentally shoots him. And then they arrest Curly Bill, and they kind of want to lynch him at first, and they're going to let him go, and then they're going to put him in prison. And it's all this kind of back and forth goofiness, and the cowboys and the Earps are having further and further tensions. Eventually, as things start to escalate to a point, they meet each other in the OK Corral, the gunfight in the OK Corral, where Billy Clanton and a pair of brothers are killed. Virgil and Morgan are wounded, but everything essentially made is all right. Nobody is arrested, and then the three brothers are dead. So the cowboys say we're going to avenge everybody. They shoot and kill Morgan. They shoot and wound Virgil, and attempt to shoot at their wives. After Morgan is dead, everybody decides to leave town. At the last second, Wyatt and Doc Holliday decide to seek revenge against the cowboys, essentially go and kill absolutely everybody. Johnny Ringo, obviously being kind of the flash best gunfighter among the group, decides to have Wyatt one-on-one to end it, and Doc Holliday intervenes and shoots him dead instead. They eliminate the rest of the cowboys, and then Doc dies after his bout with tuberculosis, and Wyatt and Josephine begin a new life elsewhere. And the end, pretty much a happy ending. I don't know how familiar you are with the actual historics of this story. Now, obviously, the timeline of all of this kind of plays fast and loose. Like the movie seems like it takes place over a couple of weeks, but the reality, this is years in the making, right?
Yeah, definitely. So Wyatt Earp really made his name in Dodge City.
Yeah.
Dodge City, Kansas. And that's really the reason he got hired there in Tombstone. But something you got to realize about law enforcement back then is you're a hired gun.
Sure.
It was just gang warfare. And it was like, we've got a gang we don't like, and so we're hiring a gang on our side.
Sure.
That was basically law enforcement back then. So yeah, you wanted the quickest gun. It was a tough time. It really was.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you're talking about like a time where, cleanliness is not exactly the foremost of everybody's minds. Obviously venereal disease probably running rampant. Clean water is iffy at best. The Earp Holiday Wild West goodness is kind of the overall appeal for this movie, because and if you go to this Wikipedia page, you can look up all the obviously the cast that goes with it. So normally whenever there's like a cast, it's like, okay, well, you can look up Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday, but all these people were real. Wyatt Earp, Doc Holliday, the Virgil and Morgan Earp, Curly Bill, Johnny Ringo, Henry Hooker, Billy Breckenridge, Johnny Behan, Ike Clanton. These are all real people. And
they actually existed.
Yes.
Yep.
And I don't think there's a whole lot of people who didn't exist. And, you can tell by the names, like Texas Jack Vermillion and Turkey Creek Jack Johnson. Like, you can't make that stuff up. That was a real thing. Like it's always fun to have these type of things. This movie is filled pretty much top to bottom with some memorable sequence or line reading. Pretty much from the moment they reach there. So whenever you think of this movie, what's the, like, there's a number of scenes and lines that kind of stick in your mind. Like, is the how close to the top is the Billy Bob Thornton scene?
That's up there. Yeah.
I mean,
it was like, I don't think I've ever played a card game on a fishing trip where I didn't say either, God damn, it's like playing cards with my sister's kids, or you back that queen again, you some bitch, or I'm gonna blow you up that wildcat's ass. You hear?
All these,
Yeah.
It not only is it fun having
skin that smoke wagon,
smacking a guy over and over. It's weird. Like every once in a while, you'll see a movie with like a young actor. You're like, wow, that's weird. They look that young and that fresh faced. This is the opposite with Billy Bob Thornton. You're like, wow, he's kind of fat.
He looks old and fat. Yeah.
And I don't think he's old nor fat. Now we talked about him a little bit in our Gray Man episode. Like he's had weight struggles, obviously, most of his life with up and down anorexia, stuff like that. But regardless, like, yeah, at this time he's like a struggling actor. I think this is 3 years before Sling Blade, so nobody knew who Billy Bob Thornton was.
Okay.
So and then you have at the same time. So of all the people in this movie, they kind of really fit into what this movie is trying to do, except for Jason Priestley. Every time Jason Priestley's in this movie, you're like, why is the guy from 90210 here? as Billy.
Yeah.
And then obviously Wyatt's common law wife, the wet blankets to end all wet blankets. Like the entire point is, hey, Wyatt's married, but we don't want to like this lady. So how can we make her just unsufferable? So.
Well, yeah. And she apparently was a drug addict. Sure. What was it that they just handed out, like laudanum?
Laudanum. Which
it's basically Coke, or like, well, not even Coke. I don't think. Like it's opioid. I think
it's an opium. Yeah, it's 10% powdered opium by weight. So I mean, it's just like, hey, something super addictive that's gonna dope you out, and it's obviously it's 1879. You're not gonna have any sort of regulation.
Yeah, it should be fine.
Exactly.
Well, and also, I mean, they're not even in a U.S. state at this point.
Yo, that's true.
This is not Arizona is a territory or part of a
Arizona
territory.
wasn't until the early 20th century wasn't incorporated, I don't think.
Right.
So, yeah. So that's even a good point. Like, you always think of the Wild West as, the untamed Americas. Like, well, technically it's just a territory, just a place. There's a reason it's the Wild West, because it's gang versus gang. Like you said, there's no regulation. There's no government oversight.
Yeah. No, it's basically like, the way I look at it, these territories back then, it was basically no different than a schoolyard fight where you're like, oh yeah, I'll call my brother, or I've got a big friend, or whatever. I mean, it was just,
the
titular, can you holler at
the titular gunfight at the OK Corral? The OK Corral gunfight is between three brothers, a friend, and then two brothers and two friends. Like it's unsurprising that these are the kind of groups that go on. So we talked about it in the past about unrealistic gunfights. Not exactly they're okay. Now supposedly Val Kilmer really learned how to quick draw, and Val Kilmer being a bit of a nut. Especially in the peak 90s, known for his methodology for doing these type of things. So let's just go and talk about it.
Okay.
This movie is Val Kilmer's movie.
Yeah.
Top to bottom. Like, what is this movie if Doc Holliday's not in it? Not that personality and that fun through line. Like, he doesn't necessarily, like, yes, he kills Johnny Ringo. And yes, he's besides Wyatt Earp, but he's not superfluous to the plot. But I mean, without him, this movie is a very, very different movie.
Yeah. Well, it's basically the Costner Earp right? The Wyatt Earp.
Yes.
Like that movie,
Had
when
Dennis-
it focuses on him, it's like it's boring.
Yeah.
But putting Doc Holliday a little bit more in, I mean, you know.
Yeah, and that movie had Dennis Quaid as
you're not playing a bustle. How lewd.
All these kind of things. Like it's like everything he says is such a memorable thing to say. Like say win, or the it's like I have two guns.
I'm your Huckleberry.
I have two guns. I have one for each of you. You can't even see straight. And like everything he does is so magnetic while looking like absolute hell.
Oh yeah. I mean, he really was like end of his life.
Sure.
During that time, in actuality, I mean, he really did die of tuberculosis not long after all that happened. But yeah, there's so many great lines, and you know, like when he gets in this one-off like Latin rap battle. This is basically like an 8 Mile. This is like
that's such a perfect
8 Mile like rap battle with Latin.
That is such
quotes.
A perfect description of exactly what that scene is.
And he says, Doc Holliday says something to Johnny Ringo, and he goes, "You're drunk," and he goes, "In vino veritas."
And they go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So okay, so this is the actual go back and forth. God,
I should have got a coffee cup. I love that part.
Spinning the so yeah, Ringo showing off
when he's showing off his gunslinging moves, and he's got this coffee cup. Yeah, please demonstrate, Ben.
Just exactly.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Hang on. Come on. Yeah.
But yeah, so that actual what they actually were saying is in Wine is Truth, in Vino Veritas, Johnny responds, "Do what you do." Doc Holliday respond, "The Jew Appella may believe it, not I." Johnny responds, "Events are teachers of fools." And Doc replies, "Rest in peace." And then Marshall Fred White really shits on it all. It's like, come on, boys, we don't want any trouble here. Not in any language. Like, shut up, Marshall.
We're smarter than you.
Exactly. It's like Mr. Ringo's an educated man. Now I truly hate him. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Kilmer has such an interesting I have no doubt that as soon as they said cut, he if he's sitting that awesome three-piece red vest and that hat, looking all holding that gun behind us. As soon as they said cut, he just turns around and probably spins it 3 times, puts it in his holster, and sits back down, lights a cigarette. Like, you can tell this is the type of guy who was committed to this role.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Doc Holliday, Iceman, like,
I mean,
back in those days, that guy could bring it.
I mean, he really had some. So the actual awards that this movie got, I looked it up, and all I could find was a pair of
none, right?
MTV Movie Award nominations, which good for the kids back in 1993. 2 for Val Kilmer, the most desirable male, and the best actor in a movie. So I mean, sure, sometimes you have the taste.
He's definitely ill the entire time, though. How is he the most wanted male?
Exactly. He does not look good. Like,
no, he's feverish, drunk.
Yeah, it's I guess just the idea of Val Kilmer in general. Like on the poster, when they're walking down the street, he has a V of sweat coming down his chest because he's so disgusting. So I mean, all that kind of stuff. So I want to talk about the 1993 Best Supporting Actor nominations. Val Kilmer did not get nominated. And I wrote an article about this a couple of years ago. I always thought to myself,
I think your laundry's done.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta balance things the best you can.
Well, life happens.
I wrote an article about this a couple of years ago. I was thinking, man, I can't believe Val Kilmer didn't get a nomination for this. And I went through every single one and I went, oh, that's why he didn't get nominated. Tommy Lee Jones wins for The Fugitive. Nominated was also Pete Postlethwaite in The Name of the Father. We've talked about that movie a lot. The Daniel Day-Lewis Irish movie.
Yeah.
Ralph Fiennes in Schindler's List. You're like, sure. John Malkovich in The Line of Fire. You remember the guy trying to kill the president and Clint Eastwood's a Secret Service agent?
Oh yeah, is that a what's his name? From the books?
No, that's not actually. I don't think so. I think.
What am I thinking of?
Are you thinking of a Jack Ryan movie?
Yeah, who?
In the Line of Fire, it's. I don't believe it's. It was an original. It was an original movie. But yeah, John Malkovich plays a crazy assassin of the president. And the fifth nominee, getting his first nomination, Leonardo DiCaprio in What's Eating Gilbert Grape.
Man, that
so
one's
you're like,
pretty good.
So you're like, that's a tough nut to crack. Like, so,
Sheesh.
but still, like everything from Tombstone, you think about Val Kilmer's performance.
Yeah.
So I was looking at it and I'm like, okay, why do critics hate, like I said, why do critics not really on board with this movie and the chaos of what was happening in the production? So the movie was originally supposed to be directed by the guy who wrote it, Kevin Jarry. So he wrote the movie and he started directing it. And then I heard an interview with Kurt Russell. He said, well, we loved this kid. He started directing it. Everybody realized he's a terrible director. And he was fired very quickly. And essentially they went, nobody's here to direct this movie. And ostensibly, even though George P. Cosmatos is listed as the director, Kurt Russell directed the movie. So he kind of like, hey guys, we want to do this movie, right? Let's make this happen. We didn't talk about Kurt Russell much in The Thing, but man, Kurt Russell's awesome. Like he has a certain level of gravitas to a character, especially like Earp, that like you just want to cheer for him. A reluctant hero.
Yes. Yeah. He does that well because I mean, I can even look at some kind of movies that are I being objective, I kind of go, well, that was a crappy movie, but he did good in it.
Yeah.
Like Backdraft.
Yes, Backdraft is trash, but it's trash that I enjoy and that I think he's really good in.
Yeah, Kurt Russell wasn't the problem.
Yeah.
And like what was the one about the Deepwater Horizon?
Yes, he's really good in Deepwater Horizon. Another good
He's
example.
good in that. Mm-hmm. You know, Mark Wahlberg's complete. It's walking around like a kid that lost his ham sandwich or something, as usual.
The facial hair is almost a part. Like we talked about it coming in. Like I don't have that kind of heft and a mustache, but I mean, you would really fit in. I think you would have a really cool, like what's your go-to? Okay, let's say you're transported into 1871. You have access to a razor, and obviously you have the facial, you have the full access. What is your move? What is your way to approach it? Like, do you want it big and bushy? Do you want it nice and like thin-lipped? Or what's your go-to for Wild West, your Wild West facial hair choice?
I think I would go more like
out
a fancy mustache and then like this or something, like more along. I would probably go more like Curly Bill.
Yeah.
Even though he's a bad guy,
Curly Bill has a good look. Like it's
yeah. But I'm bald, so I would have to.
But it's all right. You get to wear a hat all the time. You pretty much.
Well, I do anyways. Usually, although yesterday I didn't.
Still, like, yeah, that's a good point. Like, you have to take all these into consideration. And
Mhm.
see, I always think about this Wild West wise, like, okay, what's my cowboy hat style? Because it's
Mhm.
like, now this is more like aristocratic cowboys, like the Earps have money, so it's not like they're wearing them because they're working on a ranch. They're wearing them because they look pretty. So it's always
Yeah.
and those kind of cool. That's the cool,
Very
like,
cosmopolitan.
very yeah, good way to put it, cosmopolitan. Like those straight brims on Virgil, on Morgan and Wyatt, and then obviously
Now, what was the not the town marshal, but who was that prick, that fancy boy prick?
yes,
The
the mayor.
no,
Not so it's oh, I know exactly who you're talking
he
about.
was law enforcement of some kind,
Yeah,
but
he's
he was
oh,
like the constable or something.
yes. I
And
just
he was like, "This is up and coming. This is this is fancy and chic." And then like two guys come out of a bar and have a shootout.
I think it's a sheriff. It's the sheriff Behan.
Sheriff Behan,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah. So yeah,
yeah.
sure, yeah.
And then I think it's Doc Holliday goes, "Oh, very cosmopolitan."
exactly. Um, there's a lot. There's so many people in this movie, as far as like, just pops in for 2 seconds and then you never see him again. My question is, do you think there needed to be the relationship side of it? Like, did Josephine have to be a part of this movie? Like, it really is a drag on the rest of it.
Well, yeah, but historically,
Yeah,
it did happen.
it's
I
true.
mean, he did end up with her. He did leave the
Maddie.
crackhead, basically.
Yeah.
But but yeah, I can kind of see it as a distraction. Like, I mean, she probably didn't have that big of a role and everything, I mean, it was kind of like,
But I mean, if you're gonna try to, I mean, you need an excuse to get Billy Zane into a movie, right? Any chance to have Billy Zane pop in and do whatever you want. I like Billy Zane. Like, he's kind of charismatic and fun in this movie. Like, it's kind of silly that he's there. Like, and
yeah.
and like they said, why, like, he gets shot because he cursed them for cowards and they shot him. Like, it's like, okay, idiot. Like, these people are obviously doing bad stuff. You're gonna call him a coward and get shot? Whatever. Like,
Yeah, no, he adds to it.
Sure.
He's good, but he's also you're kind of like, you're in the wrong neck of the woods, bud. But I like the part whenever they see Wyatt Earp and he's describing him. He's doing this narration.
Yes.
And he says he has the eyes of both predator and prey. And then Josephine goes, "I want one." That's good. It's a good narration,
that's a fun. It's a fun little back and forth. Like, oh, that's cute. Like, where's this dynamic? And that dynamic, like, Dana Delaney and Kurt Russell don't exactly have the hottest of hot chemistry. Like, they're fine, but I mean, they by no means you're like, oh yeah, those two need to deserve together. I want to talk about not my least favorite performance, but my most loathsome character in this movie, and that's Ike Clanton. Just a turd. Like, Ike Clanton,
I would have killed that guy 8 times.
Exactly. He's almost murdered 7 times, and he somehow survives the movie. Like,
he throws off his thing, and they're just like, "That's fine."
He's in the OK Corral. He throws his hands up and gets out of there.
I would have aced that dude.
But then got a gun and started shooting at him. Runs away a second time. He tries to kill Wyatt at the train station. Lets him go again. And then at the end, when they're rounding everybody up, he gives up and they're like, cool. I'm like, come on.
I don't know what the actual Ike Clanton was really like.
It's not.
But if he was like the movie,
yeah,
I would have killed him, and I would have killed him bad.
You're not wrong. Like, it's the guy deserved to die, and boy, I was really.
I mean, you ain't even in a U.S. state yet. I mean, take care of business, man. TCOB, Wyatt.
Okay, so outside of let's take Val Kilmer off to the side. Who's your favorite performance in this movie? I mean, it's hard
without Val Kilmer.
It's hard to go against Sam Elliott.
That's what I was just about to say. Is like Sam Elliott, man.
You put Sam Elliott in a Western, it just automatically gives it some credibility. Like
it just works.
It just works. It's a guy who looks like he was from night. He does. It's like, you know, some of these guys are like, okay, we got to, you know, fluff your mustache up or do a little of this and that. And Sam Elliott just walks on set and is like, hey, it looks like he's ready to go.
His mustache has a bigger dick than me.
And you know, the funny thing is, whenever I think about him, he's so with that mustache at all times. And I remember him in the movie We Were Soldiers, where he doesn't have a mustache and he's even more badass.
Yeah.
Just
he doesn't need it.
He does not need it.
That's just bonus. I mean, Superman didn't need his cape.
Just really fits into that. I also liked Michael Biehn as Johnny Ringo.
He's very, very good.
Very good. Just sitting that level of like
despicability,
insanity, but talent. Like essentially, like what if Doc Holliday was an asshole? Like, and not like
he was.
No, okay, I was thinking that. Not a bad.
He was a piece of shit.
What if Doc Holliday was evil?
Okay,
it's probably a more realistic version. Like,
okay,
there's some respectability at least to Doc Holliday. He just like, yes, he was an asshole and he was a drinker and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, seems like the thing that would be happening. But yeah, Michael Biehn. I always like Michael Biehn when he shows up. He had a really good run in the 80s and 90s, and he hasn't really showed up in much lately.
I can't think of anything else he's been in.
Oh boy! Oh, I'm about to blow your mind. Okay, so
I just opened a can of worms.
No, this is good. This is exactly why I do these type of things. His first movie was in the movie he's in Greece. He was uncredited. I don't count that because that movie blows. The first movie he was ever like people knew who he was. He was in the Terminator. He was the second male lead in the Terminator behind. He's the one who come with me if you want to live. He's the first person to ever say that. In the original one with Linda Hamilton. 2 years later, he was in the second Aliens movie as Corporal Dwayne Hicks. Awesome in that movie. Actually survives the Aliens movie. And then, do you remember The Abyss?
Yes.
Yes.
I like The Abyss.
He's the nutcase guy who eventually explodes as they throw him down like a submarine.
Okay.
Yeah, he was in. So I mean, and he had a good run. He's also in The Rock. He's the Navy SEAL commander in The Rock, who is in charge of everything.
Okay. Yeah.
So a nice little run there. Still doing some stuff, but I mean, 90s and 80s is really up his alley. All right, buddy, let's take a quick break and we'll come back. All right, we are back. It is time for Poll for a Dumbass. Every week I go through the filmography of a filmmaker and put Jake Cinemac knowledge to the test. We are going to go through the man, the myth, the legend himself, Doc Holliday, Mr. Val Kilmer. There's quite a few to get into, but we're going to be really heavy backloaded on his filmography. So for the last 10, 15 years, for some reason, there's not going to be a whole lot to get into, but we'll talk about that as we go. Couple interesting movies to start his career. Did the 1984 spy spoof Top Secret. I know some people have seen that. I've seen bits and pieces, but nothing really.
Nope.
That was also a movie called Real Genius, which I know a lot of people like as a science fiction film. But again, don't really know much about it. 1986 though comes out of the woodwork. The Iceman himself in 1986's Top Gun.
Man, yeah.
And not only like the best version of like the Aryan ideal of a villain, like
We went racial.
I mean, blonde hair, blue eyed, like
He is pretty Aryan looking.
very like just that square jawed and everything. Really awesome in that movie. So after Top Gun, he doesn't really do much for a little while. He takes a little break. But 2 years later, have you seen the film Willow?
I don't think so.
It's one of those sci-fi things. It's a little man is the as Warwick Davis is the. It's one of those like fantasy.
What, like a little person?
Yeah, it's a fantasy adventure film. Ron Howard directed it in 1988. I've seen it before, but it's been so long I can't say. It's like, boy, I really like that movie, and they made like a series on it on Disney Plus to follow up with it. But a lot of people like Willow. I haven't seen it so long I can't say I remember a whole lot about it. So a couple of years later, the first time he's ever actually received any sort of critical notice, playing the dead before his time Jim Morrison in The Doors.
Yes, I have seen that one.
You have seen The Doors. I have not seen The Doors. I've heard a lot of people who are mixed on it. Like some people are like, "Oh, he does a really good job," but the movie sucks.
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah. Oliver Stone is a mixed bag. Like he'll always do something a little odd, and that's a good example. I don't have it on the list, but I want to mention the year after The Doors. Have you seen the movie Thunderheart? That seems like something you would have seen. It's a.
Does that seem like something I would see?
No, it's Thunderheart is
Thunderheart.
It's a mystery film. There's like it's like a death on a Indian reservation, and Val Kilmer goes to investigate.
Wait,
you have seen this, I bet.
Yeah, he teams up with a reservation detective.
Yes,
and
and it's the guy. It's the guy from Dances with Wolves, Graham Greene.
Yes,
you have seen that. Okay,
yes.
I'll give you that. I'll give you that extra credit. I've heard good things about Thunderheart. That's why I said that seemed like something that.
It's been a while, but yeah.
Okay, nice. So yeah, you've seen Thunderheart. There you go.
Yeah.
Does Tombstone the next year also? He's in the movie True Romance. Technically, he's supposed to be Elvis, but his scenes were cut. It's a very silly thing. 95 though really goes into the stratosphere as the most forgettable Bruce Wayne in Batman Forever.
Yeah, I didn't like him as Batman.
Yeah, I think he's a really good Bruce Wayne. Like he's a good.
Yeah.
Like rich guy putting on all these, but the Batman side of it doesn't really work.
No, not really. And like, I want to say it was Val Kilmer that they had him in like this outfit where he couldn't turn his head.
Yeah.
Do you remember when our mom had to have surgery on her neck?
Yes.
And she would be driving the truck and we're in the back. But she couldn't turn her neck.
That's funny. That's what it always reminds you of.
Yeah. My mom reminds me of Val Kilmer.
Very one and done for Batman. Never got a chance to do another Batman. But he had other things to do in 1995. He had to be more awesome because he was one of the bank robbers in Heat.
Yep.
Oh man, he is awesome in Heat. Don't get me wrong, he's kind of a shit in that movie too. Gets away with it. Is the only one to actually escape. But at the same time, Heat's awesome. Heat's a cool ass movie.
It is. Yeah. Well, if you're gonna be a shit well.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? And he does.
Things took a turn in 1996. I'll talk about this first movie because I remember watching this movie at home with you on VHS. The Ghost of the Darkness.
I think I know it's coming.
The Ghost of the Darkness. Awesome movie.
Yeah.
I like Ghost of the Darkness.
It's scary.
Well, it's
I'm
funny.
still afraid of lions.
It's exactly, whenever I think of man-eating lions, I always think of Ghost of the Darkness. Just like there's some gross stuff in that movie too. Like
that was actually based on a true story. Actually,
yeah.
There was
a set of man-eaters.
I don't know. I liked it when I was a kid, but
I liked it too.
It scared the shit out of me though.
I agree. Now,
I still won't get in a lion cage to this day.
Well, Jake, one day we'll get over that. The other movie in 1996, significantly less successful, The Island of Dr. Moreau. Oh boy. Let me tell you about The Island of Dr.
Did it have
Marlon Brando?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
It's a legendary disaster of a film. Everything about it pretty much went wrong.
There's like mutant animals and shit or something.
It was based on a Michael Crichton book, and they're like, what, or H.G. Wells book, excuse me. And it was like, oh, we should adapt this movie, and everybody's like, that's a terrible idea. And then it just went worse and worse and worse. And Kilmer was very much a part of the problem. But yeah. Like even for the sake of like interesting, like I wouldn't watch Island of Dr. Moreau. It's an odd movie.
No, and even at that point, like I mean, Marlon Brando was a great actor. At that point, it's like okay, all you can do is like be half dead.
He's like 350 pounds. He's a big
with
dude.
a camera on you, like
exactly.
Just hang it up, bud.
Well, this wasn't his last film, but it was almost his last film. Okay, so I was going through this and I was like, I can't wait to talk about this movie. My personal guilty pleasure of this list from 1997, The Saint.
The Saint.
I love The Saint.
I do too.
I love this. It's such a silly movie, but I love The Saint. Like it's of all those like silly 90s movies. I don't know what it is about it. It's just kind of just goofy fun. Like they solve global warming or something with a machine. Like it's really stupid.
I don't remember that much, but
it's a very silly thing. And Elizabeth Shue's really pretty. And Val Kilmer doing a lot of different interesting things. He's like, that's like suave. It's supposed to be like, I think it was supposed to be like the beginning of a franchise. I don't think it worked out.
Yeah.
But I
liked it.
I like The Saint too. Yeah. He was a voice in Prince of Egypt. He was actually Moses in that in the Prince of Egypt, a movie I've not seen in a long time. Okay. The next one, I have no doubt you have not seen, but I just want to talk about it because it's an awesome movie. The Salton Sea. This is from 2002. The Salton Sea is about a bunch of meth heads. And they're kind of going through and just kind of living their life and being crazy. But there's like a twist that this one guy is actually doing it for revenge. He is the main guy. Go find, if anybody's seen The Salton Sea, it's a cool ass movie. It has a lot of weird, interesting things, a lot of interesting people in that movie. But I know you haven't seen The Salton Sea. I'm not going to count that against you. But I love The Salton Sea. Now, we talked about Oliver Stone with The Doors. Have you seen Alexander?
Yeah, didn't like it.
What a turd of a film.
Good Lord. This was, again, what did we talk about? Troy?
No, it was, was this Jake's Apartment classic, or just like, oh, you had such high expectations with Troy? There's the same.
No, it was one I saw with my buddy that was also a history buff in college.
Oh yeah, it was Troy. Yeah, it was Troy was the other one.
And we're like, oh, this has got to be great. You know,
what a waste of time Alexander was. Just boring. Like
horrible.
How do you make a movie about Alexander the Great a snore? Like, I don't get it. Like
the federal government had to be involved in order to fuck something up that bad.
You had fights with elephants and it was still shitty. Like, it was incredible how bad it was. But I mean, that really put a really shit in everybody's punch bowl. So he kind of goes away. Now the next year, he does make another movie the next year. The comeback movie for Robert Downey Jr. Have you seen Kiss Kiss Bang Bang?
No.
Kiss Kiss Bang Bang's fun. It's like a noir pulp detective movie, and it was Robert Downey Jr. right before he was Iron Man, and everybody's having a lot of fun. And Kilmer's having a lot of fun. He seems actively engaged and everything. Fun movie. Christmas movie. Go check it out if you have a chance. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is a lot of fun. Yeah.
Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. That sounds like our Tuesdays, am I right?
Man, you know how to
just gave me a bad look.
You know how to sell a joke. The next year, one of his last reputable movies before he started making kind of like direct-to-video schlock. How about Deja Vu with Denzel Washington?
Yeah.
It's okay. So Deja Vu is Denzel Washington is he's a police officer or a federal. He's an ATF special agent in New Orleans, investigating a ferry explosion that kills 500 something people. And Val Kilmer kind of just like, hey, we want you involved in this because we have the ability to look 4 days into the past and surveil essentially and catch who did this.
No, I was getting it mixed up with Insomnia with Guy Pearce.
Or
that's what I was. Memento. Yeah.
Okay.
Where he like tattoos himself.
Yes.
And stuff.
Deja Vu's an interesting movie.
I don't know.
Little confusing. If you think too much about it, you get a little too wrapped up. But it's
almost like Deja Vu.
See what you do there. So,
Mm-hmm.
but one of those fun Denzel Washington movies. Not a bad thing to check out. So he does. So he gets diagnosed with cancer a couple of years ago. Gets throat cancer. Still doing okay, and then shows up last year, redoing Iceman as in Top Gun Maverick.
Mm-hmm.
It was so nice to see him, even though he sounds not great. But I mean, you have throat cancer.
Well, yeah, but
I mean,
I don't know. It was nice to see him. Like, I'm glad he stepped up and took that role.
And they did right by the character.
Yeah, exactly. And plus, I'll say this about his character. He made Admiral.
He did.
And stupid Tom Cruise is still like a captain. So
that's got to be, by all means, that's the most unrealistic part of this movie, right? The fact that he's like, you're not going to be a captain for 20 years. Like,
you got to get in a lot of trouble, and they would have taken your wings.
Yeah,
at that point, like
Ed Harris says at the beginning of the movie, you should be a senator or an admiral by now. Like, and he's right. But at the same time, they're not going to just like, no, you get to stay captain. Nope, keep flying these experimental things, even though you keep blowing them up. Like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
but
yeah,
that's I agree. But all right,
it's fucking cool though.
It is really cool. I'll give you that one. Val Kilmer, you nailed Val Kilmer. 10 out of 13. Only not seeing Willow, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, and Deja Vu. Everything else you have seen. Even Thunderheart gave you the extra credit. So I mean. Well done, sir. You are well versed on the early career of Val Kilmer.
Mm-hmm.
All right, buddy. I think it's about that time.
Thank you. Well, all right. Step into the hot box.
Each episode, instead of me steering the conversation, Jake peppers me with a series of questions that I must answer truthfully. Sometimes it's trivia, sometimes it's not. In vino veritas, buddy. What you got for me?
The hell is that supposed to mean?
This is how I'm going to fight. I say in vino veritas. It's like, oh, we're going to fight now.
All right. So the funny thing is that Wyatt Earp and his group go there basically trying to open, to get into gambling.
Yes.
And that's their intention. They end up getting wrapped up in back into law enforcement. So there's a lot of card games. What were they playing?
I'm pretty sure it's Baccarat.
Yeah.
Do they have that?
I don't know what that is.
Do they have the big long cricket stick to move stuff around? I don't know, but so the early James Bond movies, like the Sean Connery James Bond movies, every time he goes to casino, he's playing Baccarat. And every time I see it, I'm like, I don't know what this means. Like, I don't know what this is. Like, they're like, they'll get their cards, they'll go cats, and we're just like, well, what does that mean? What like, I don't understand the rules of Baccarat at all. I think that's what it was. That's the only thing that makes sense.
Yeah. But that being said, what's your favorite card game?
So if you're talking about at a casino, I'm probably going to go with very, very astute as you twirl your mustache. If I'm going to a casino, I'm going to play blackjack, just because, like, in theory, you're like, oh, would you want to play poker, like Texas Hold'em poker? It's like, yeah. But I mean, you don't go to a casino to play that. Like a room with people you don't know. You're like, well, yeah, just blackjack is the go-to, because that's the one that's the easiest to understand. Like as far as being in the room.
Over 21, bad. Close to 21, good.
Yes, exactly. That's
21, perfect.
That's okay. That's exactly it. If I'm in when I was a kid, Crazy 8 was my jam. I loved Crazy 8.
I like Crazy 8.
You have to have Crazy 8 with a number of people, but if it's just 2 people, I'll go with gin.
Yes, I love gin.
I love gin too. I can play gin. Me and a friend from high school were on a school trip, and we were bored as hell. We pulled out a card game and we played gin for like 3 hours, just because something to do with. Exactly. So it's probably my go-to, but I do like Texas Hold'em poker, and I think I'm pretty good at it, but I mean, I just don't have the opportunity to play it that often.
Do you remember we were at a cousin's, I guess her about to be husband's bachelor party.
I had you stake me.
Yeah, I just funded you and you played, and he's like, can I get another 20? Yep. We won a bunch of money.
It worked out. Like, you made your money back by all means. Yeah.
All right. How do you feel about gambling overall? Like, are you a risk taker? Or are you not? Because I have trouble being a good gambler, just because, like, in that regard, I'm not a risk taker. Like, I don't like I have bad luck. So
I'm pretty good at compartmentalizing the difference between losing money and losing chips. Like, I'm pretty good at, like, if I am playing poker, for example, and something represents $700, I don't look at it as losing $700. I just lost imaginary chips. Like, I'm pretty good at that. So I'm pretty good at taking those risks, but at the same time, I always think of the calculation of it of like, okay, gambling is supposed to be fun, is how I go into it. So I'm like, I'm going into it going, okay, let's say I have $500. I'm going in with the mindset of, I can lose this $500. I don't have the stress level of like, no, I can't lose this. I'm gambling. It's like, no, that's not the way to gamble in my mind. Like, you have to go into it accepting that you're probably going to lose this money. And then maybe you can take some risk and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, I
got more money to lose than I do, bud.
I don't go that nuts. I'm a big, like, low risk, high reward. Like, I'll take the long shot, and if I get lucky every once in a while, it works out. But I'm not like this is a sure thing and then lose my pants. Like, it's always. Yeah.
It's like I was on the road, like, I don't know, 2-3 weeks ago or something, and we had this Airbnb, and they had a little room that had a ping pong table in it. And one of my coworkers was sitting in there, and I had a dollar bill. I went in there and I said, I bet $1 I could beat you at ping pong. He whooped my ass, but it made it interesting.
Yeah, sure.
I lost $1.
Yeah,
That's it.
It's not
I don't mind doing that, but if I lost $500, I couldn't come home.
You're just like, oh, this is I can't judge. Like, how am I going to justify being able to come home from this? And
Nope.
it's not going to work out all right. It's funny. Like you said, I think Artie Lang always had a joke about this, like, well, why do you gamble on all this kind of stuff? And it's like, well, do you care about a basketball game between Arizona State and Washington? It's like, no. It's like, okay, put $500 on Washington. It's much more interesting. Like, but I don't know anything about the game. It's like, yeah, you don't have to know anything about the game. That makes it not fun anymore.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I'm not that kind of risk taker.
Yeah. Okay. Who's that trying to think of? All right. So you kind of already touched on this. So excluding Doc Holliday, Wyatt Earp, and Johnny Ringo.
Okay.
Who's the best supporter?
Let's see here.
And excluding Sam Elliott.
Sam Elliott, yes.
We already discussed him. So
I do really like Curly Bill, as Powers Booth's Curly Bill. He's just such slime charm. You're just like, oh, what an ass. But at the same time, like I do like the Texas Jack. Peter Shereko he has some really good lines as Texas Jack, and it's like, I think he's the one being like actually, excuse me, that's it's Turkey Creek Jack Johnson. Buck Taylor, it's Turkey Creek Jack Johnson. A lot of the it's like hell, I got a lot of friends. It's like, and
Doc Holliday. I don't.
That's a great line, and our grandpa's favorite line from that movie.
Oh yeah, loved it.
Yeah, I really liked him, but probably Curly Bill. We haven't talked about Bill Paxton at all. Bill Paxton's solid in this movie. He just, you kind of knew he was going to die as soon as he shows up.
Bill Paxton kind of
not the greatest actor. I agree, but yeah,
yeah, but he does all right.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Yeah,
all right. So, who would you go Huckleberry for? So Wyatt Earp challenges Ringo.
Yep.
To a shootout.
Yeah.
And he steps in and takes it.
Yeah.
And goes, I'm your Huckleberry.
Yeah.
All right. Who are you getting in the gunfight for?
I mean, well, present company excluded. I would not for you. Well, I'm not worried about your gun prowess. It's like you were a peace officer, so you have 10,000 hours and all. But I mean, obviously, like I'm obviously a family guy, so I mean, wife, kids. Obviously our mom, pretty much most of our family, not all of our family. I know some of you are listening. You don't deserve it. But I mean, so don't mean to make you jump. No, but I mean, it's one of those, like, whenever you see like old movies where you're like, oh, I have to defend the honor of my sister or something like that. And I'm like, that always seems silly. And then you have kids and you're like, oh, okay, I get it now. You're like,
yeah, don't, shut up.
It's like, I will shoot you if it means that defending the honor of, yeah, exactly. So, kids and wife.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's like I remember whenever we were kids, like I would fuck with you and our younger brother all the time.
But you'll be damned if anybody else will.
On the playground, I'm like, nah, that's my bitch. I'm the Huckleberry.
it's very much prison mentality. Like it's like no,
Yeah.
he's mine. You're not allowed to touch him. Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to put it.
All right. Do you know? So there's shootouts. There's good gunfights.
Mm-hmm.
So do you know what kind of revolvers were most common during that time for professional like gunslingers, like guys who knew what they were doing?
So I would imagine that 38s are probably a little too big, right? Or 38s are right, probably right along those. No, I mean, like for the time, like is 38 along the lines of what a lot of people used, or is that not? I don't know, to be honest. Obviously revolvers. But I'm we had that one episode where I was talking about, oh, is this the right millimeter? Is just like, that's like a cannon shot. So we all know I'm bad at this. There we go. Yes, beautiful. What is that here? What is that we got there?
This is a Cimarron. So it's 45 long Colt caliber.
45. Okay. Yes.
So it's a replica of the Colt Peacemaker.
Mm-hmm.
I believe at the time of the OK Corral, I think Wyatt Earp was carrying a 10-inch barrel model.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So it was just longer barrel, but
that hammer's so far back, it looks like it's almost cocked.
It is cocked.
Oh, it is. Okay. I'm sorry. Sorry.
It's unloaded.
Oh, no, of course. There you go. Okay.
So, yeah, that's your loading gate.
Oh, nice. So you put the individual bullets in if you needed to. And yeah, nice.
So that's where you got to drop your rounds into. And then, to fire, you pull it all the way back and then pull the trigger. But I love this.
Fascinating.
This is a
beautiful gun.
It is. Yeah, it's I can't remember the process that the frame goes under, but it's called a Cimarron 1445 Colt.
Beautiful. So Colt 45s are the go-to of that time, right?
Well, that's the Peacemaker.
That's right.
There was as many guns as there is today.
Sure.
That was, what was the saying? God, what was it? God, men made all men equal, and Samuel Colt.
I'll find it real quick. Hold, please, just a second. Samuel.
Yeah. Colt. Oh, I'm ashamed of myself.
God created man. Sam Colt made them equal.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. That's a nice little anecdote. I like that. Beautiful gun. Is that now? I have shot a revolver with you. Is that is that the one?
No, I believe you shot my 38 special.
So there's
a little snub nose.
There's one it's, by the way, the idea of Hollywood guns of just light crank with my thumb on the back of that hammer. It's not necessarily the case. You have to really put some heft into that thing. Okay, so that's not the one I shot, because there is one I've shot with you where you really had to really crank back a handle. Now this is years ago, obviously, but
I don't remember.
Oh, well.
It's as easy as that.
Maybe I have poor thumb strength at the time. But beautiful. Thank you for showing that.
Yeah. All right, Ben. That's all I got.
Before we go, what is your film rating for Tombstone?
Love it.
I am not as pessimistic as other critics. I'm a big fan. 3.5, 4. I don't remember, but what's not to like? It's a fun time. It's enjoyable. Even are there some parts that are okay, that's a little silly, and okay, whatever. It's not supposed to be like you said. with the Wyatt Earp movie, you have that historically accurate, perfect to the T of what historically accurate is, and it doesn't work. This is a little skewed, and this works a little better. This works way better. So I agree.
Yeah. Oh, real quick.
Yeah, go
bonus.
ahead. By all means.
Kate, the girl that's with Doc Holliday.
Yes.
Her actual nickname in town. Do you know it?
Big Nose.
Big Nose Kate.
Why is that the case?
She was a hooker with a big nose.
And it's funny calling her Big Nose Kate because I think the actress is a very pretty, normal looking lady.
Yeah, but in actuality, they're like, that's the ugliest hooker in town.
Big Nose Kate. And even if you look at the historical picture of her, Matherine Catherine Haroni, she doesn't it's not it's not crazy. I guess just, whatever. So
you Hungarian devil.
You might be the you might be the Antichrist.
One more, I'll get out of here.
Okay.
What was Doc Holliday's actual profession?
He was a dentist.
Besides,
correct? I think he was a dentist.
Yeah.
That's why he was a doctor? Okay.
Yeah, that's why he was Doc.
Fascinating.
But being a dentist back then meant I'll get you drunk and I'll yank your teeth out with pliers.
Yeah. He's not like, oh, you got to work on your cavity, gingivitis. It's like, nope, I'm going to pull this tooth out because it hurts. Oh, it's abscessed. Cool. I'm going to yank it out too. Yeah. And hey, doc,
how much whiskey can you afford?
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Quick reminder before we'll do it after the course, but we'll do it after the closing. That just about does it for this episode of the Film Critic, the Common Man. Thanks so very much for joining us. You can follow me on Twitter at NebisBin, on Letterboxd at Neb810, on Instagram Ben Miller Movies. Check out my website at icecreamforfreaks.com. You can follow my other writing on the film experience and cinema scholars. You can find me on other pods. I'm David Thewlis of podcasting. Jake, where can the people find you? I imagine lounging in your fainting chair, drinking your ample amounts of laudanum.
That is appealing.
It doesn't sound bad. So what's to complain about? You're sitting there just getting high off your ass the whole time. Make sure to follow the podcast on Twitter.
Okay, you talked me into it.
Make sure to follow the podcast on Twitter at Critic Common Pod. Please like, subscribe, rate, and review. Enjoy the show wherever you get your podcast. As we said, listeners' choice episodes coming up. We'll be doing those in the month of May. Get in those requests to Critic Common Pod on Twitter, criticcommonmanpod@gmail.com. Tell us what you want to hear and tell us why you want to hear it. And maybe we will just pick you.
Sell yourself.
We will catch you guys next week.
What's the trick? What's the trick? In making my love stick. What's the trick?